What is up? My name is Douglas Nyback. This is DNA, and it is spooky season, so I'm gonna teach you how to audition for a horror movie. We're doing an audition horror Halloween spectacular, and this is it. So click like and subscribe, turn on notifications, and in the description down below there is a link to a free micro course called Framing 101: How to Craft a Competitive Self-Tape. It will make you better. It will cost you nothing. I love that for you. And without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so I've chosen material from a recent horror film that has been cast out of the city that I live in, and I've changed it enough so that we're not actually using their material and we've, tweaked it, but it's based on something that's real and is recent. So the first major challenge of auditioning for horror films is what we are asked to do in the text is often not possible within the limitations of a single camera audition. And what I mean by that is like there's action, there's running, there's screaming, there's crying, there's dying, there's fighting, there's, all sorts of stuff, reaction to supernatural entities, etc., etc., etc. And that's all well and good when you're on set because you've got, other actors, you have visual effects, you've got locations, you've got all sorts of things that are operating with you to help you within that process. In the single camera audition, all we have is a camera, two lights, a backdrop, a reader, and a panel of people being paid to judge you. If you're doing this as a self-tape, it's just you alone in a room. If you're lucky, you have a reader. If not, you're just reading with somebody on Zoom, which is a challenge. We have to ask the question, what is the text asking us to prove? I.e., what does casting need to see from us so that they know we are capable of doing the job on the page? And how do we do that in a way that's possible within the single camera audition? So the first thing we're going to do is look at the text. Then we're going to switch the camera view and go into audition mode. And I'm going to actually physically take you through all of the things that we're going to build in order to make the audition work. And then from there, I'm going to give you even like some more just straight up tricks that can help pump up your game and differentiate your tapes from other people who are doing horror film auditions or other people who are going out for this role. So it's all very practical because you're here to learn how to act better, and I'm gonna teach you how to do that in a spooky way. Okay, cool. Let's friggin' dive into the text analysis. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna look at here is the location, right? Interior, decrepit mansion, night. Decrepit mansion, very horror film thing to be inside of as we are auditioning for a horror film. It immediately evokes a spooky scenario, and night can evoke a lot of different things in an audition, but in a horror movie audition, it just means that night is scarier than day in almost every scenario in horror. So scary times, dark, can't see stuff. That's real scary. John, who is the character that we are auditioning for in this situation, stares into the darkness, and after a moment, ... John says, "Hello?" A woman in white appears, seeming to glide out of the shadows towards him. This is something that immediately implies that we are in the land of supernatural. He tries to unlock the door, but the woman stabs her razor-sharp fingernail into the back of his hand, ! He drops the key, she pulls her fingernail out and licks his blood off of it. So, what is casting asking us in this moment? Casting is asking us not to prove, can you have your hand stabbed, the musical? No, that's not what's going on here. What they're asking is, can you, within your audition, represent a pain response? Because you're in a horror movie and you're going to have to elicit that. So that's going to be a thing that we break down, how to actually do that and how to make it look cool on camera when we know that we're not getting stabbed, and we don't want to actually show that on camera because it's going to look like we're not getting stabbed. Then we have realization dawns on John's face. What does this mean? We don't really know yet. He says, baby. We get a little bit of context. Now here, again, we don't know everything. But it does seem, listen, we don't call strangers baby, usually. It's not 1920 anymore. So we can reasonably assume that whoever he's talking to is somebody that he knows and somebody that he has an intimate relationship with. One would assume either a lover or a daughter. This is the person who has stabbed him. So within this, we can make a reasonable assumption that the main character knows who this person is and that they have an intimate relationship, and whatever supernatural force within the audition has corrupted this person, or they were always corrupted and we didn't know that. Either way, this is the moment of realization. So we actually don't need too much backstory. We just need enough to play this transition and have that moment of realization. But before he can speak further, another figure emerges from the shadows, an even more ominous presence, the monster. Tall, stark, dressed in black. As it glides into the light, we see the supernaturally sharp incisors extend as if by magic. So supernaturally large incisors, what are we dealing with here? We're dealing with vampires. That makes a whole lot of sense for a horror movie. Okay, so here we have a situation where we're being asked to represent rising horror, which also makes a lot of sense. We're auditioning for a horror movie. So this is all about the escalation of horror. The woman in white wraps her hand around John's neck, tilting it to her master for an easy kill. Can we actually have somebody wrap their hand around our throat in an audition? No, we can't, because the reader is going to be at closest like 5 feet away from you. So it's not going to happen. So we're going to have to figure out something up there that puts us into a position where we're showing some kind of physical duress and getting ourselves into the situation that casting is asking us to. John says, "Baby, please, ... But the woman stares ahead, unfazed other than a single tear running down her cheek. Tears fill John's eyes." So the script does imply in this moment that there is some level of recognition by the woman in white, that she knows John, but she is not in control of herself enough to stop the behavior. John obviously needs to. We have tears fill John's eyes. I am a writer. The number of times that I have written, they fall into tears. Her eyes well with tears. You would be doing a sitcom and all you'd be doing is crying. Writers love this shit. I love this shit as a writer because it's the way we see it in our mind. It's dramatic. It's, it is what it is. All this is asking you to do, it's not, it's not can you cry here. It's have some kind of emotional response that's relevant to what's happening here, which is largely fear and love based mixed together in the cocktail of vampirism. John says, "I love you, baby. Please don't." The monster's mouth opens wide. He sinks his teeth into John's neck. The woman in white lets out a guttural scream. This is the final moment of the audition. And this is actually pretty close to what the audition demanded of us when I was doing this in coachings. This obviously, again, is a moment of the most horrific moment for our character. It makes sense that casting is giving this to us. Can you do the most intense thing that we are going to ask you to do? They need to see that in order to give us the job. And asking us to do that in a scenario where we don't have a freaking other actor doing any of that stuff, and we don't have a stunt coordinator, and we don't have the blood gushing, it's really hard. The job of auditioning is completely different than the job that we do when we're on set. This is why some of the best actors that I know don't book very often. It's because they know how to act real good, and they don't know how to audition. And that's what this is all about today. This is what essentially the text is asking us to do, right? Intro to environment, pain response with the fingernail, realization and history of relationship in this middle part, rising horror and emotional connection, and then the peak moment of fear. That's it. If we can put together those ingredients, we will have cooked the dish that casting will need to eat in order for us to prove to them that we're the person they should hire. I went really hard into that cooking metaphor, but I think it worked. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna get it up on camera because you've seen enough of my face sitting here talking. Let's go. Okay, so here we are in the audition setup. Blue backdrop, panel of people being paid to judge me. You're not being paid. You're just out there judging me for free. So, thanks. So the limitation here is that the camera position is fixed. It can move a little bit with us, but it's not going to move a ton. In this particular instance, I don't have anybody operating the camera, which most actors, when they work with me via Zoom, I'm set up on a computer off camera and the camera is in a fixed position. So this is a good limitation to put ourselves on. The number one thing to remember when you're auditioning for a horror movie is what the audience can't see that you, the actor, can see is scary. So it's all about creating a world off camera that we're having an authentic reaction to, that the audience doesn't actually have access to, that creates the fear. And we use silence, We use imagination work, our whole process with what's going on off camera, believing it to be true, and giving the audience access to our reaction to it. That's what causes fear. So John stares into the darkness. After a moment, hello, woman in white appears. I'm being asked to build a fear response, and then I get stabbed in the hand and I'm being asked to build a pain response. I'm going to create an eye line just off camera. Just off camera. You're going to have to get used to putting your eye lines really tight to the frame, because if the audience can't see it, it didn't happen. If I build this person over here, you've got nothing but the side of my face. And also, like, let's be real here, my nose can make human beings in the background disappear. So it's not my best look. A good rule of thumb, hands shoulder width apart. It's about as far left and as far right as I'm going to look on camera. You flip that around. It's about as far down and as far up. I'm going to start about a half foot behind the mark, and I'm going to go through this whole process. So we are standing by and hello. Okay, so see what I mean? I'm gonna break it down. What did I do? I step into it. My first eye line is out here. I can't see anything. I build silence. There's no talking. I'm not breathing heavily. We want to create a world of silence where I'm experiencing things off camera that the audience, we want them to be asking, what is he seeing? What is he seeing? I cross my eye line across camera to build out a tertiary eye line over here. I don't see anything so that I can play. I hear something and it pulls my eye line over. And that's where I start to see something that scares me. And then I start to fiddle with the door. We're aware that there's no door here. It wouldn't make any sense because it's right in the middle of whatever I'm actually seeing. But what's important is that I'm having a physical reaction. I'm struggling with something. I'm showing physicality with my upper body and self. I'm starting to elicit that fear response, and then I get stabbed in the hand and I have that pain response, which is going to take us into the back half of the audition. Then we have, before he can speak, another figure emerges from the shadows. Then we're gonna have the wife wraps her hand around my neck and I'm presented for that easy kill. We have the baby, please. I love you, baby. Please don't. And then that big scary thing. So here again, I'm going to demonstrate and then I'm going to break down what I did. I'm going to take it from that stab response, that pain response. Just so you know, this is what I'm doing. I want to give myself something that I can fight against. This hand is the one getting the pain response. This hand I wrap around the wrist so that I can really tense and fight myself. Why not give yourself the thing? Okay, so I'm going to take it from that pain response. Oh, baby, I love you. I love you. Please don't, baby, please. And then now we're in the most awkward part of the audition, right? Because now I have a vampire that's supposed to be eating my throat and I'm like this, and I'm just a guy now with a blue backdrop in a room alone, and I feel like a fucking tool. So what do? First off, break that down. Stab response, physical tension, eye line emerging as somebody new enters into this scene. Holy shit. That's really scary. Back to the woman in white who I know, who I have a relationship with. We're being asked to develop that as well, right? Back to her to beg and plead, because I'm not going to beg and plead with Johnny Miscellaneous Murder Monster. I'm going to beg and plead with the person that I know. She starts to expose my neck, so I keep the physical tension. I bring my arm into frame. It's going to, again, create more angles in the frame, keeps the frame alive and active. It allows me to create more tension, and it's as though I'm fighting something that I'm not in control of. And then this thing gets closer and closer to me. I go back. I beg, please, baby, please don't do this. This is where we get into please don't Keep it going. What else do I need to do? I need to be able to represent a primal fear response. That's what we talked about in the text analysis. So to me, that's manifesting in a scream. Can I actually do that big horror movie thing that they're going to ask me to do? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to play that moment at the very end, and then we're going to piece it all together. And then I'm going to give you a couple of tricks that are going to make it even more interesting. No, please. And then I'm going to cut out. Ooh, I'm lightheaded. Yeah, there we go. Because that's a lightheaded thing. That holding the breath, that hyperventilating, that's going to cause you to physically go through some stuff. What's going to happen now, I'm going to make a couple of wardrobe adjustments, and we're going to make a lighting adjustment that are going to dramatically change the way this translates. And perhaps most importantly, it's going to guarantee that the way you do your audition is going to be different than everybody else that does it. This kind of stuff, I want to be very clear, this is tricks for auditioning. Casting has hundreds of tapes per role to sift through. They are genuinely interested in finding the best person for the role, and no matter how devoted you are to that task, watching 100 and anything gets boring after a while. We've got to do things and start thinking outside the box to say, what can I do that's going to cause that casting director to snap out of the absolutely unintentional zone out that they're in? So we're going to break them out of that by giving them something that we know they haven't seen. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce something called water. It's 2 parts hydrogen and it's 1 part oxygen. And this is a thing that's used on set a shocking amount. You will get spritzed so much in your life. And here we have the technology, it just comes in cups. You got to be liberal with this because a little bit doesn't work. This is going to immediately create an environment physically where it seems like I'm sweating, seems like I'm f***ed up. If you're wearing makeup, it's going to cause your makeup to run, which is going to create a very different look that's going to immediately make the audience believe that you're in much greater distress. This is a really, really useful trick when it comes to auditioning for horror movies that you shouldn't do before your other scenes. Make sure you shoot everything where you need to look pretty first before you do this, because there's no going back. It's going to take, it's a while to reset. What's going to happen is I've got somebody now in the room with me who's going to we're going to do a lighting trick. Now this is something that you can do as well. It's going to make a pretty big difference. Okay, so I'm wet. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start back here, same thing. So we are standing by and baby? Oh, okay. No, please. Oh God, no, please, baby, please. No. Exact same audition, spooky light, sweaty face, somehow makes me seem so much more believable. And why? Because I've done a couple of minor things that are going to make them think that this is less of an audition and more just them watching their own movie. These things are very subconscious. They genuinely make all the difference. That's not how to audition for a horror movie, but it's like all gonna help because each one is different. These are tools that are probably going to be applicable to almost every horror movie that you audition for. So I really hope that this helps. I hope that you can start implementing some of these things, looking at the text, not asking what literally are they telling me to do, but instead saying, well, what does casting need me to do in order to show that I'm capable of booking this role? And then how can I use my imagination to operate within the limitations of a single camera audition? How can I use my breath and my body and the choreography of the audition? That creates a horror audition that hopefully will make them watch and say, yeah, no, that's it. That's my movie. That's my show. Thank you very much for being here. Once again, I hope this helps. I have created a bunch of online courses called the Foundations Program that will literally teach you everything you need to know to take an audition from conception all the way to completion, i.e. text to a bookable audition. You can check them out. Links are in the description down below. I very much appreciate you. I hope you have a fantastic spooky season and go be people.